Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. On behalf of the CBA's Professionalism Committee, I would like to welcome you to the first talk in our three-part series of Take 10 talks. Just a couple of housekeeping matters to start. There will be a 10-minute talk, which will be recorded and uploaded to the CBA's website. For those attending via Zoom, if you could please turn your cameras off during that time. Then we will have a 30-minute Q&A session which will not be recorded. You're welcome and encouraged to turn your cameras back on at that moment and ask questions. For those here in person, please be sure to silence your phones at this time. Today's Take 10 talk is presented by the Honorable Janaya Trotter Bratton. Judge Trotter Bratton is the president of the Cincinnati Bar Association, and she is the first Black woman to serve as president of the CBA in its 151 years. A Hamilton County Municipal Court judge, Judge Trotter Bratton is also the 10th woman to serve as CBA president. Judge Trotter Bratton started her career as a prosecutor with the city of Cincinnati. From there, she had her own law practice from 2011 to 2016, was a lawyer with the noted civil rights law firm of Gerhardstein and Branch from 2016 to 2019, and then won her current seat on the Hamilton County Municipal Court in 2019. Judge Trotter Bratton has also served as an adjunct professor at the University of Cincinnati College of Law, teaching civil rights litigation. Judge Trotter Bratton is an avid volunteer who serves on the Sam and Pete Chase Law Alumni Council and has notably served on the Dress for Success and Ohio Justice and Policy Center boards of directors, Cincinnati Zoo Plan Giving Committee, and Hamilton County Tax Levy Review Committee. She joined the CBA in 2005 and served on its board of trustees for 7 years. Judge Trotter Bratton sees her tenure as CBA president as an opportunity to reinforce connection in the community, increase bar membership in the region, and help members build relationships. As the first Black woman to serve as president of the CBA, she looks forward to continuing to push the CBA toward its goal of creating an increasingly diverse legacy. She believes it is important for the next generation of attorneys of color to see the CBA as a place where their voices matter, a place where they belong, and where they can lead. We are thrilled to have Judge Trotter Bratton here today to present her talk, Leadership in Your Career and Community. And please join me in welcoming Judge Trotter Bratton.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to try not to hurt your ears because I have a big mouth. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So I am tasked with talking about leadership. And as I was preparing, I was thinking there are so many different facets to what leadership is. Like, who are leaders? What are qualities of leaders? I was kind of at a loss of which way to go, especially because I anticipating having people in the room who I considered leaders. So what do I say to people who I admire and look up to, right? And so what I tried to do was define leadership and realized that if you ask 100 different people, and I actually not 100, but I did ask some people, what is leadership to you? You get different answers from everyone because the definition is kind of like the all-elusive definition, but it's something that when we see it, we know it, right? And so I start thinking of people who like Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Colin Powell, Mother Teresa, Abraham Lincoln, and the list goes on and on, that when someone says, think of leaders in history, you start to just name them off. But what I submit in terms of career and community, that there are so many more leaders that don't have to have a world-renowned reputation, but that are making a difference every day in our communities. And so what are the qualities kind of those leaders, and how do we get there? And for me, I'll start with passion for a cause. And so most leaders I know don't walk around saying like, I'm a leader. They just do. So that's one. Leaders are doers, right? They're not talkers and talking themselves up. It's doing. And then I started, when I thought about the passion and how leaders act out what their passion is. And I started to think, you know, for people who consider me to be a leader, how did I get from one place to the other? And it is very interesting because I started to go back about like, what is my passion? And if you listen to anything that was said about me, there's kind of a theme in the things that I do, right? It's civil rights and equality and advocacy. Like those are the things that get me up and get me going. And the fact that I love people. And so that's my passion. And so I started to think about when I was younger, like what was kind of the first step that I took toward what I consider to be my passion that has gotten me to where I am now. And I was in high school and our basketball team had played another team in this area. And I was a basketball manager because I was trying to get in the games for free. And so as we were leaving that school, we had things thrown at the bus and we were called the N-word. And so we weren't used to that because I went to Winton Woods. At that time, Winton Woods was incredibly diverse. And so we all kind of mixed and mingled. We just had not in our school environment dealt with that. And so when we got back to our school, we ended up playing them later in the season at our school. And I had complained about it and nobody paid me any attention. And so when we played them at our school, the students were kind of mocking our coach and one of our players. And one of our players reacted to that, and the coach did as well. And this particular player was somebody who school was not for him. He went to school because he wanted to play a sport, and to play that sport, you had to be in school. And right, wrong, or indifferent, it gets you there and it gets you the grades, and that is your motivation. Have at it. And so they reacted and they ended up being suspended. And for him, he ended up being suspended on senior night. Now, think about somebody who doesn't want to go to school anyway. And you've done it because you've committed yourself to something and to a sport, and you're really good at it. And this is what motivates you. And then the day where your academics and your sport meet, you are to be suspended. And for lack of a better word, I just thought that was nuts. And so because it was a reaction, and our school still had not done anything about this other school calling us the N-word on our campus and at their campus. And so I went to talk to the principal, and the principal told me to mind my business. So I started writing, and I wrote a letter to the principal, and then I copied the school board and superintendent. And then I told my mom I might not be in school next week because I might get suspended. And she asked me, did I feel like it was the right thing to do? And I said, yes. She said, do it. We'll take care of it on the back end. And I got a response. And the principal and our school board ended up writing a letter to a meeting with Harrison School Board. It was Harrison. Ended up meeting with their leadership. And so that led me, and I look at that as my first kind of act in leadership. And so some of the things that I think about when I think about that is like passion, like what is right? And for me, I have a passion for people and for people getting their just due. and people being treated fairly and equally and right and doing right by others. Like that is literally what gets me up and gets me going. If you've ever had a conversation with me, I can talk your ear off about how I think the world should be. But it is also the ability to inspire others. And so I went around and told people, like, this is what I did. And if you will sign on to this, it'll be harder to suspend us all. And so I got my classmates and I got some teachers to sign on to it before I sent it out. And so that's the other thing, is that leaders build teams. It is not all about you. And the best leaders that I know have amazing teams, because all of us have weaknesses. All of us. If you think you're perfect, stop. And so the best thing about leaders to me is being able to, one, acknowledge and know what your weaknesses are. And then two, to be able to mitigate those by hiring or working with or collaborating with people who make up for those weaknesses. Leaders also are honest, they have integrity, and they admit not just the weaknesses in them, but the weaknesses in their argument, right? So when I wrote the letter, I put, yes, the response from the people on our side may not have been the best. It may not, quite frankly, have been appropriate, but there are a wide range of punishments that you can have for someone's behavior that doesn't completely discourage them from the one reason, quite frankly, why they're here. And so good leaders will always say, okay, I know that this part isn't the best, but let's do this, or let's fill it in with what have you. And the other is, leaders aren't self-serving. If I had wrote the letter because I wanted everyone to think that Janaya was this super smart, radical, good writer and this and that, and I had like a lot of people edit that for me. But if I had done it for me as opposed to what I felt was right, that to me is not leadership. That to me is self-service. And so what I would, and so that was kind of my story, but then I thought about some other folks in our community who have similar stories, who are leaders, who people would not, when you name off, who are the leaders? You may not say their name, but they are amazing leaders. We have them in our room today. But we also, so I'm not sure if some folks know who Cam Hardy is. So, and I say Cam because it is so very interesting. At one point, like nobody knew who Cam was. And then all of a sudden, Cam was upset because he felt like there should be a place to sit at the bus stops. If this region is going to have horrible transportation, the least you could do is let me sit down while I wait for what we have to take me from point A to point B. And that was his passion. He wasn't doing it because Cam wanted to be on TV. He was doing it because we literally have a not so great transportation system here. And why don't, if we're not going to invest in something new, why are we not investing in what we have and making it so that more people will want to utilize it, which in turn will create more revenue, which in turn will allow us to do more, right? And so it was a passion of his that he took on, he led, and he was at a law firm at one point working as I can't remember what his position was there. But however, he is now in leadership at Metro because Metro was like, oh, he really did us a solid. Like, you know, like people really, and he like raised money and for people to put like shelters. And so if you know him, you're like, this is a good leader, right? But he also knew what his lane was, and leaders stay in their lane. I am a law, I love right, I am very straight on what I can do. Leadership in numbers is not my thing. Don't ask me to do any job or to lead any team of people that requires me to count. It will be a bad day for everyone. And so leaders know what they're good at, what they're not, and they let someone else lead in their lane, in that lane that they know is not theirs. And so I thought about also Joe Mallory when it comes to voting rights. Joe worked at the Board of Elections, and his family had been involved in politics forever. But even still to this day, Joe is now the president of the local NAACP. And Joe goes out and takes all the knowledge that he learned from working at the Board of Elections up until his retirement out to the community to get people to understand the importance of voting, not necessarily of voting for someone, because that's self-serving. If I tell you, I want you to vote because I want you to vote for this person so I win, that's self-serving. And sometimes he does that, and sometimes you want them to, but overall, his goal is for people to understand the power of their vote. And so when you ask someone, who do I talk to about getting information about XYZ with voting? A lot of people will think of Joe immediately because that is his lane, it's his thing. And the last person who I thought of was Charlene Ventura. And so folks are shaking their heads. So tell me what Charlene is amazing. Like, what was her, not even was, what is her passion? Women. It is women, and making sure that women are safe and creating safe spaces for women and families. And so when a lot of people think of Charlene, they automatically YW, right? And her leadership there has helped so many people. And when you see her and you've seen her interact with the individuals in her shelters or in her organizations, you could really see that she had a passion for those women and what she was doing. And so I submit that any of us can be leaders wherever we are. We can be in our firms. Is there an initiative that you want to take up? Is there something that you feel should be changed? We can be leaders in the court. We can be leaders in our community. Is there a cause that you want to see changed? I mean, I would submit that with all the division in our in the world, but in our communities as well, that people on one side or the other, we don't really need leaders there. We need leaders to bring them together, right? And so there's always space for something that you're passionate about for you to take the lead on it. And if people see that you're passionate, that you're authentic, that you are honest, that you have integrity, that you're going to do what you say, that you're bringing in other people that they know and trust if they don't necessarily know you yet. If you are self-aware, all of those things, when people see this and they start to sign on and say, you know what, I want to ride this train with this person because it's going somewhere. That is leadership. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be grand. But if it serves a purpose to further a goal or something that you are passionate about, I submit that that is leadership. So I'll start gaggling now, stop talking if anyone has any questions. But that is my 10.